Running and Growing a Business QuickStart Guide. The Simplified Beginner's Guide to Becoming an Effective Leader, Developing Scalable Systems, and Profitably Growing Your Business. Written by Ken Colwell, Ph.D., MBA. Narrated by Dru Steeby. Copyright 2022 by ClydeBank Media, LLC. Production copyright 2022 by ClydeBank Media, LLC. Introduction. Anyone interested in reading about how to run and grow their business will find plenty of content out there offering advice, tips, or narratives about the best ways to do it. Some of this material is good, some of it is trite, and some of it is downright awful. So, if I'm asking you to read my stuff, the obvious questions are, why should you? What sets me apart from any number of other would-be experts? Before we get to the real meat of this Quick Start Guide, let me tell you a little bit about my background and why I think my unique perspective will help you navigate complex issues more easily than you could on your own, or by turning to the myriad blog posts, newsletters, podcasts, etc. that deal with these topics. A few years ago, I was approached by the publishers of the Quick Start Guides to write about starting a business. I did, and to my gratification, Starting a Business Quick Start Guide became an immediate bestseller. Running and Growing a Business Quick Start Guide is my follow-up, reflecting the next significant hurdle for a founder after a successful launch. I believe my book succeeded due to both my experience in academia and my fluency in the practical, nuts and bolts aspect of entrepreneurship. This combination allows me to use relevant, real-world examples to illustrate tried and true models from the domains of operations, human resources, and strategic management, in addition to entrepreneurship. Hopefully, this will demystify these concepts for you. I also don't pull any punches and am very blunt about what works and about the mistakes I've seen founders make over the years. My hope is that this will make for an enjoyable and educational read. I also write for readers who did not start out as entrepreneurs, as I didn't myself. I'm a Gen Xer. My dad was a corporate wage slave, and I assumed I would be too. So when I graduated from university, I started working in a series of normal jobs in finance. I ended up as a managing director at a major brokerage firm in San Francisco, and also acquired, sorry Elon, an MBA. But I wasn't in San Francisco at just any time. I was there in the mid to late 1990s. In other words, during the dot-com boom and bust. It was the first time I'd been exposed to the startup world, and I was at ground zero. My company wasn't a startup, but we were making a major push into online brokerage and disrupting the relatively sleepy world of personal finance while basically inventing high-volume e-commerce as we went along. The whole firm experience left me burned out. I was tired of the middle manager's life of going to meeting after meeting, trying to get support and resources for the things I wanted to do. I wanted a way out, but I still wasn't thinking of starting my own business. In those days, tech deals needed massive amounts of capital to scale, which venture capital, VC firms, and other private equity organizations were happy to provide to the right people. I didn't have the technical background or expertise. It wasn't for me. Several of my MBA professors had suggested academia as a career path, so I started to ask more questions about it. It sounded awesome. Freedom to pursue whatever research projects I wanted, tenure for job security, and a good salary to boot. So I went to the University of Oregon to get my Ph.D. in strategic management and entrepreneurship. As I was studying and observing the dot-com bubble in real time, my advisor and I realized that private equity, PE investors, were pivoting. They had been roasted in the press for their extravagant bets on what seemed to be worthless e-commerce plays. I remember in particular people laughing about VC funding for 5 online pet stores. Who in the world would buy pet kibble online? I write this as I await my latest Chewy order. On the other hand, when Pets.com was buying sock puppet ads for the Super Bowl, we all probably should have predicted that the bubble would burst. Once I got my PhD, I joined the faculty of Drexel University in Philadelphia as an assistant professor of strategy and entrepreneurship. At a school like Drexel, a professor's job is to produce high-quality research and teach a few courses each term. After a while, I found that I hated the research part of the job. I was too practical and impatient with the long time it took to get published and the politics it took to get into the best journals. I found myself drifting toward work at the Entrepreneurship Center, helping students who were interested in starting businesses and taking student teams to national business plan competitions. Even though we were well into the internet age, it still took a lot of money to begin and scale a tech startup, and budding entrepreneurs needed business plans with extensive details to pitch to potential investors. Because I wasn't enthusiastic about the major part of my job, academic research, I knew I had to find a new gig. By this time, I had acquired a decade of experience in the startup ecosystem. I'd met a lot of entrepreneurs, and I began to understand what made them tick and what deals were fundable and workable. With my foot already in the academic door, I got a job running the entrepreneurship program at the University of Miami School of Business. Freed of research responsibilities, I could focus on what I really loved, tapping into the local entrepreneur ecosystem and getting my students involved in it. Tapping into that ecosystem was also very educational for me. It was the first time I had really interacted with entrepreneurs on a personal basis, rather than as research subjects. I began to better understand how they thought and what motivated them. Because I was trained as a business researcher, I was able to recognize and characterize behaviors that led to successful outcomes in a way that was different from those without this background. I was also able to apply standard tools of strategic management, like external analysis of the firm environment and internal analysis of firm competencies and capabilities, to the entrepreneurial context, and show how they were meant to be used to help managers make more effective decisions. As you will see over and over in this book, these tools can help you understand not only what needs to be done, but why. This realization led me to run an entrepreneurial consulting program with my students, helping local entrepreneurs, and eventually to found my own consulting firm, Innovative Growth Advisors. After a few years at UMiami, I felt I was ready for my next challenge in academic administration, so I became a dean. People misunderstand what a dean does, and those misperceptions aren't helped by depictions of deans in movies as evil despots out to foil students' fun. In reality, they are unit managers for fairly large organizational entities, managing academic programs with, in my case anyway, thousands of students and millions of dollars in annual revenue. I have been dean of business schools at 3 universities as of this writing, and I've tried to take the lessons of entrepreneurship and apply them to academia. In other words, to use the tools of creativity and innovation to attract new students and to help existing ones graduate and get good jobs. During these 20-plus years, I've been both an observer and a participant in the startup ecosystem in many ways, studying it as an academic, teaching it to students, acting as a consultant to help students and others start and grow their own business, and running my own ventures. This varied background has provided me with insight into what works and what does not. My perspective on business growth and success is very much my own and quite distinct from that of others who currently write, speak, think, and publish in this field. Speaking of 20-plus years of close observation, I've seen radical changes in the startup world over the last 2 decades. Gone are the days when you needed to raise millions of dollars and live in San Francisco or one of the other entrepreneurial hotspots. You can live wherever you like and start a business on your phone, sitting in your local coffee shop. There are apps to resolve every startup headache: supply chain issues, finding vendors and employees, payments, accounting, everything. And your venture doesn't have to involve big tech or big science to scale. It has never been easier to start a business, but in the end, you'll still have to deal with some very fundamental issues if your business is going to succeed. That's where this book comes in. It addresses the critical topics of personal health, management style, organizational design, and strategic management at 3 levels of analysis: the individual founder, you, the organization, your business, and your strategic context, the economic environment. That may seem a bit daunting, but don't worry. I've provided numerous real-world examples of companies, many which you've heard of, dealing with these issues. It is my sincere hope and objective that the perspectives gained and refined through your reading of this book will lead to successful outcomes for both your business venture and your general well-being.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?